Definitely, Tammy, a moving service and ceremony that took place today outside the Tutu residence in Orlando West. I mean, it is quite significant for us to be here today, hearing the stories and the memories that were shared of the late Arch by his neighbors who've been around him for years. This is where he stayed with Mamulia Tutu from 1975. Now, that same year was the year that he was ordained the bishop of, the dean of St. Mary's Cathedral. I mean, there's a lot of history behind the late Arch being here in the city of Johannesburg. Most of his work that was done here, I mean, some of the work that we've even mentioned beforehand earlier on and yesterday, hearing of his work, not just in his religious capacity, but politically as well as an activist in societies across the world and not just in South Africa. But we're just going to quickly talk to the City of Johannesburg Mayor now, Dr. Vilakazi, who of course attended a private praying session that we had the privilege of also attending inside the Arch's private chapel. I mean, it was indeed a moving service, more specifically that prayer session to be in his private space that he was in before he started his day. How did that make you feel, Mayor?
You know, I was so afraid of going into that private prayer space because I knew what I would be confronted with, and that's exactly what happened. I got a sense of the weight of the burden that he carried for this nation and for the continent of Africa. And I sat there and I introspected and I asked myself, is our generation ready? Are we ready to take over this burden? Are we ready to continue the prayers? Are we ready to continue the work that needs to go on to realize his dream of a rainbow nation?
And I mean, he was seen as a man who was fair, just, and also objective when it came to, whether it be criticism, whether it be an opinion that he had, to ensure that it was for the best of South Africans. As you also mentioned in your speech that, it's time for South Africans to carry that through, especially when it comes to the troubled times that we're in now.
It's so tempting as politicians to seek popularity over what is right, over what is best for the growth of our nation. One thing I learned from the Arch is that he was not about popularity. He was about progress, and he was about this dream that he saw. And it's going to take a people who are serious about law and order, who are serious about not tolerating corruption, serious about building bridges across lines that divide us, and who are serious about the dream of what South Africa could be, a country so rich in mineral resources, a country so rich in heritage and culture, a country that could really be an example and a beacon of hope for the rest of the African continent.
All right, so thank you so much. That's Dr. Vilakazi, City of Johannesburg's Executive Mayor, giving us a part, of course, of her speech that the address that she gave today, giving us insight on what she will take away from the Arch's legacy here in the city of Johannesburg, moving it forward, talking about crossing boundaries, especially trying to, of course, blur those racial lines as well, and not seeing race, not seeing color, but trying to bring unity amongst people. And also, I mean, this event today, the ceremony that took place today, is just one of many that will continue throughout the week. Here in Johannesburg, there will be a service. Service on Friday will take place for a Thanksgiving Mass here at Soweto Anglican Church. That's when some of South Africans and the public at large can come, of course, to pay their last respects as well. So we will continue to give you more updates here outside the Tutu residence in Orlando West. For now, it's back to you in studio, Tammy.
Thank you so much, Sipha. But before I let you go, I wonder what the residents of Soweto have been saying, specifically those who are residents of Vilakazi Street. What have they shared with you today?
I mean, as you can see, Tammy, I mean, right now it might seem just, there aren't a lot of people as there were before. We saw his neighbors come out, people living in Vilakazi Street, other streets, neighboring streets that are also close to his home, who are all out here to pay their respects, to honor their respects, lay flowers, and also take part in the service that took place here today. I mean, hearing from some of his neighbors, more specifically, one we spoke to yesterday as well, Umamupo Lamachola, who then told us that, he not only spoke or preached about Ubuntu and being compassionate and loving, no, he actually practiced it as well. She was telling us about how she grew up from in front of the street, rather she inherited her grandparents' home who had moved here in 1934, and she later on came and became their neighbor and lived right across the street from the Tutus. And she says that whenever they had, the little they had, they would share it with their neighbors. They would share it with anyone that would come. If they had, a ceremony at their house or an event at their house, they would call on their neighbors to come and also break bread with them. She says that that's the kind of person he was. And I mean, talking about the bishop as well, some of the pastors as well that spoke here today, didn't only speak about, the man of cloth, but spoke about him as the man that he was, saying that they would attend ceremonies with him, and thereafter eating, he would actually go to the back and thank the ladies who actually prepared that meal, showing you, he was a man who was humble right till the very end, Mpho. Definitely an inspiration and an example to live up to.
Sipha, thank you so much for that right there, and just recounting how the residents also remember him. And one thing that seems to be a common thread was a number of the people who have been interviewed and a number of people who've been sharing their personal experiences is the sense of Ubuntu that permeated a large number of the interactions that the Arch had with those around him.